I'm Bill.
I'm Chris.
I'm Scott, and you're listening to
Three Guys and a Bottle.
Hey guys, we are back for another episode, right? Is this episode 2 of season 2? Of course, you've seen everything already, so you've caught up and you know what's going on. We got Chris, Bill, Scott. This is our Halloween episode, so happy Halloween. Again, we got a special guest. We got that guy right there sitting on Bill's shoulder. So
Michael Myers, yes. That's
Michael
Michael Myers, the Halloween show.
yeah, so
born today on Halloween, by the way, remember?
that's right, Bill. So that was actually
BC, you and my dad both born on Halloween, so happy birthday,
sweet.
Dad. Love you.
How's your dad feel about Halloween birthday? I'm one of those mixed bag guys.
He's never really talked about it, quite frankly. He's one of those guys. So I think he cares more about the years than he does about the date.
Yeah.
So now this is 84.
Wow.
So,
He's coming up on 84.
Let's keep him going. Yeah. So
Nice. Well, happy birthday.
I'll be happy to make it there.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We have many years, but again, so this is our Halloween show, and hey, why not for Halloween? We picked the topic of top horror, not horror. I was confused for a second there. Horror films. Horror between 1975 and 2000. So very, very distinct. That 25 years. A lot's going on, but let's just get right into it, Chris.
I guess as the movie guy, I'm the guy that has to take the lead, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that the thing?
I think it is. Yeah.
Interestingly, my number one would have been The Exorcist, but it came out in 1974.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
And that would have been
missed it.
That would have been mine
clip
too.
it.
That's why I said 75 because we can't include Exorcist in it.
And then you added science fiction to it, so that threw me for a complete loop. Because that like I was down to 15, and then that took it to like 20, and so I've had to shave this down.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess we're going like 10 down to
10 down.
number one.
We're gonna go 10 to 1.
Are we arguing? Are we debating our picks? And by the way, what are we having today? I've got my Maker's Mark coffee mug that I got free, by the way, from Liquor Republic here in Cypress, California.
Okay, there we go.
Shout
Liquor
out
Republic.
to my guys there.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah, I got. I'm doing Tito's today. You can't really see because Michael Myers just is. Oh, here, Mike, have some.
That's all right.
Anyways, but yeah, little Tito's.
There we go. So this is some Slipknot whiskey, number 9, in honor of Halloween. Since they'll have costumes, it's here somewhere. There we go.
Oh,
by the way, Scott,
this is a small batch
Scott,
release they have.
Great T-shirt, by the way.
It is, yeah. So again, if we were doing films in 21,
2019 to 2021,
yeah, then I would have, I would have done that. Fun fact, and you won't see it on you'll see it on the B reel, right? If we eventually actually get through this. Chris sits down, turns on the camera. I'm sitting here already, and we have the same shirt on. So he opted to put on.
I had to change.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
Shout out to my folks at Weird Realities podcast, by the way. Great
Nice
podcast, also.
yes.
I like how.
Well, let's jump into it. You know what, Bill? Since it's your birthday, you get to go first with your number 10.
I think so. Yeah.
Should we do honorable mention first? I think that's what we did before, right?
Let's
All
do
right,
it.
let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
So, and this is my criteria. Being born on Halloween, for me, movies, usually the occult stuff scares the shit out of me because, born and raised Catholic, now I'm Christian. So my horror movie genre top 10 is going to be all kind of based around that. So for me, that threw out some of my picks. like sci-fi horror is great. That's still like supernatural for me. It's all about the crazy supernatural. Anyway, so the one that didn't make my list because of my picky criteria was Halloween, which is still one of my favorite movies of all time. So, and listen,
Honorable
I was
mention.
born on Halloween. I remember it vividly, going to my friend's house, having to watch it like at a sleepover because my parents wouldn't let me watch it, dude. It was like one of the coolest movies of all time. But I just, because of my criteria, it's more serial killer slasher and not.
If that's your honorable mention, this is going to be a very interesting top 10.
Yeah, I know, and it's only because of the criteria, because I got to be, supernatural, religious, crazy cult stuff. Yeah, sci-fi horror.
All right,
Nice.
Scotty, what's your honorable mention?
Yeah, so I have 3, so I'll make them really quick. Fright Night, 1985.
Love that
All
movie.
right.
I was going back in my youth and just thinking what was going on then, and that was kind of just a cool movie there. Blair Witch Project. I remember sitting in the theater, and people around me were at least they were playing it up to feel ill. But yeah, that shaky camera shit, and the story itself, and at the very end, that definitely left kind of with me. And this is one I went back and watched it again because I remembered it when I was a little kid. Salem's Lot.
Oh yes.
David Soul,
Yeah.
Stop there. But
David
really,
Soul.
Sorry, nuts, baby.
yeah, and I kept on looking for the red car. It wasn't showing up. Anyway,
Yeah.
again, I remember that scared the crap out of me when I was watching it. And you got this vampire floating outside the window, little vampire kid. Good film. And there might be a theme somewhere in here, but I didn't realize it at the time. Knew it was Stephen King, but Tobe Hooper as well.
Oh,
So,
hey, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Right. Also
that's
74,
honorable
so
mentions.
it doesn't make the list.
Doesn't make the list. Yep.
So, dude, it's funny that you bring up Blair Witch Project, because although I didn't find it to be one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, it kept me up all night. I watched it when I lived in a house that was on a creek and the windows used to be open.
mhm.
And I remember that final scene with the person in the corner.
Oh yeah.
And dude, every single noise I heard that night just freaked me out. So
Yeah.
that's a great honorable mention.
Yep.
My honorable mentions are Nightmare on Elm Street. Because you guys know me, I'm gonna swerve, so I can't go with the what everybody thinks is the greats. And also Hellraiser, and the Amityville Horror. Those are my 3
Okay.
honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Hellraiser to me has, as part of a different podcast, I went back and did that on the Manson Brothers channel. And I remember I had not rewatched the first one since I saw the original. But when Pinhead says, "We'll tear your soul apart," is one of the greatest lines in horror cinematic history. So
Yeah. I would
with
agree.
that, let's kick it off.
Number 10.
BC, it's your birthday,
Number
buddy.
10.
You're number 10.
All right, you guys are gonna love this one. So, it's a film that not a lot of people know about. It actually, since you mentioned Nightmare on Elm Street and honorable mentions, Jennifer Rubin's in it. She ended up being in the Dream Warrior Nightmare on Elm Street, and I actually won a KNEC radio call-in in 1988 to go see this film with a buddy. And I still have the ticket. Can you guys see?
Oh man, yeah, Bad
nice.
Dreams.
Bad Dream, guys. Number 10 on the back. You can't really see it, but I'll post a pic like in post.
Dude,
Yeah.
you're breaking it out.
Yeah, basically it was a pre-screening, and dude, I mean, it was basically a knockoff of Nightmare on Elm Street. But I mean, the characters were so crazy, and it was more. Yeah, it was more occultish to me because of the burning, and they are all worshiping him, and Richard Lynch. The Scarface guy, he was just
Richard Lynch was awesome in that movie, and he was the perfect guy for that.
Yeah, and then Jennifer Rubin, she basically the Nightmare on Elm Street, kind of the same character. And the fun fact that I read about it, I looked this up. "Sweet Child of Mine" from Guns N' Roses is in there, and the guy said, his quote, he said, "Sweet Child of Mine, they license it for about 5 cents. It's before they actually got it.
Had any money? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, Bad Dreams, number 10.
All right.
Nice.
Scotty?
I'll do it. So in at number 10, and again, this is a movie I remember when I was a kid. I go, I'm going to go back and watch it. So I watched it 2 nights ago. And Chris, I think you know a thing or two about this movie. Phantasm. So I watched it, and then I went and watched your clip afterwards, because I remember early on, it stood out in my mind clearly. Tall man, the floating sphere, and
Yeah.
Oh, that was a great movie.
And then I watched the review, which again you guys were talking about, and I'm not trying to be vague. So Chris has another show. He breaks down movies, and he did Phantasm, but I purposely watched it after I watched the film and after I wrote my little review, so I wasn't heavily influenced. But I just remembered when this topic came up, that movie scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. So I went back and watched it, and parts of it, and it's easier to think of this now, but is it a complete flow beginning to end? No, but the way things stand out, just with the tall man and little kid, and the Ewok guys. But the thing that probably stood out to me, a couple of the quotes, oh shit, from the kid when he sees tall man, and then boy, that it's boy. Like that just stays in your head as like, oh, you never want to run into that guy. But at the very end, I forgot about this, and it was 79, so it's not if it's given anyone, I can't even think of it. The term. That's what happens when I have this early in the morning, right? So
it's morning, so that's part of the problem.
It's morning. It's Halloween morning.
Exactly.
Again, at the very end, is it just a dream? I don't know. It seems like it is.
The scene at the end is one of the best horror film scenes of all time. I'll get into it later because it's higher up the list.
Okay,
me.
But
it's
number 10, Phantasm. And
is it my turn?
It is. Yeah.
Oh man. So my number 10 is My Bloody Valentine, which was filmed in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I've actually met the miner on several occasions at what do they call those, cons or autograph things or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Just a great slasher movie that has a good twist at the end. And if nobody's seen it, which a lot of people have not, it's like a 1976, I think, or 78. Just a fantastic movie with a lot of awesome kills. If you haven't seen it, you need to check it out. So
perfect.
It's one of those movies that got made for like $3 million, and it looks like it got made for like $100,000. So
yeah,
they actually did the reverse. They spent the money poorly
to make it.
It's a great movie. So
yeah.
Number 9.
Number 9. BC. This was like I said, the occult. That's going to be my theme here. I love slasher movies. Like, honorable mention should have been like American Psycho, because that's in 2000. I freaking love that movie. But number 9 is Trick or Treat, 1986. Have you guys?
Wow. What, the one with the metal one?
Yes.
Is that the? Yes.
Yes. It's got Ozzy Osbourne in it and Gene Simmons.
Gene Simmons is in that, right?
He's the radio DJ. Yeah. Ozzy plays like a.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, and I won't get too explicit about it, but that movie has one of my favorite scenes of all time in the backseat of the car. Right. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep. So. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And then,
but I'm taking notes here. Hold on, I got
Ozzy plays the TV evangelist, and the music was composed by Fastway.
Yes.
Yes.
He did Say What You Will, which is one of my favorite songs of all time. Here's a little fact about that. Blackie Lawless was supposed to be the bad guy in that movie. Was supposed to be
I think I did hear something about that.
Yeah, we actually did a show about this, and but they had told him that Fastway was already signed on to do the soundtrack, and so he bugged out because he wanted it to be all Wasp tunes, and so he backed out of the film.
Yeah, and it's just funny because, it's like what you hear as a kid growing up, don't play your records backwards, and then,
right.
play your records backwards.
Yeah.
That's what gets you. Yeah.
And that was like the kid from Family Ties, I think. It was like Michael J. Fox, bestie, that played the main character. Just hilarious.
Yeah, it was, what's his name? He was like Boner or whatever his name was on the show.
Exactly.
Yeah, the friend,
Boner, but
Boner. All right, so Trick or Treat, number 9.
Awesome.
Scotty Scott.
Number 9, kind of and then there's a lot of these obviously that have similar themes or touches, but this was like the science and the horror. Some say at its finest. And the ending with Donald Sutherland, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh,
yeah. So again, I had to revisit that one as well. But again, the intentional or unintentional lower quality, right? It just kind of, a lot of the movies had that grainy feel that just added to it. But really good actors. Leonard Nimoy. Come on, that
Donald
was creepy.
Sutherland. I mean,
Donald Sutherland.
You don't,
yeah.
And he's super creepy in it. Like he's the perfect cast.
Absolutely.
For that. And it's funny you talk about the unintentional graininess. Like we mentioned The Exorcist earlier, which none of us can put in our top 10 because of the years. But if you know William Friedkin, he was a documentary director before he ever got into features, and he shoots The Exorcist like it's a documentary, and it gives it the realism that you would want from that kind of a movie. So a lot of the movies in the 70s did that very same thing, which makes them extra creepy in my opinion.
Yeah.
Same here.
And that's why we do a theme like this, because Chris can add those kind of like deep factoids that nobody else knows, but then you go back
even while
lubricated, right? Wait, can I say that on this show?
At 11 a.m. or 11:17 or whatever it is.
But no, that's awesome. Bill.
My number, is it 9? Are we on number 9? My number 9 is Reanimator.
Okay, yeah.
Movie.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen it.
Seen it.
But it is kind of the ultimate amalgam of horror, blood, humor. Jeffrey Combs made an entire career out of this movie.
Yeah.
As playing Dr. West in the film. You have a decapitated head that performs cunnilingus on somebody. If I may be so bold as to use those terms, like it's got everything you would ever want in a horror film. If you have not seen it, you have to see Reanimator. It should be higher on my list, quite frankly, but it's hard to rank these. So
exactly. All right, I guess number 8, Crawford starts, and it should be higher on my list, but I'm going off of the way movies affected me, and this did affect me in a creepy way. But 1979 Alien, and obviously, I mean, not much you could say that's not amazing about Alien. And I think back then when you see it I was probably a teenager, where there's no internet, so you don't hear about any spoilers. And when the alien comes out of his freaking stomach, it's just like the fucking. It stays with you forever. It stays with you forever.
Yeah.
The original Alien was very much like a Hitchcock type of movie or Jaws, where you never really see the alien. They just give you quick, flash cuts to it. And I think that's what makes it so scary.
Exactly.
And suspenseful, because I don't think you'd look at any of the other Alien movies like a horror film per se.
Yeah.
But the original Alien, while it's a sci-fi movie and it would count on this, it's also a horror movie. It is extremely Hitchcockian in the sense that all of the doom is on the other side of the camera. You know what I mean? It's extremely creepy.
No. All right, Scott.
Number 8. Jason. That's
the original,
but Jason, Friday the 13th. The original. 13th? Yeah.
By the way, that's not Jason. That's Mrs. Myers.
Damn it. I knew it was different. Yeah.
But yes, Jason is.
See, again, we got these tidbits where, as a 10-year-old watching it, you didn't know any better. But that's digging back in deep. Yep.
I love that movie.
How great was the scene where she gets her head cut off with the just whack with the machete?
Yeah. And I think they did they make it all the way up to 13 episodes?
Oh, they're beyond 13.
Or they're on,
now at this point, including did Rob Zombie do those, or did he do Halloween? He did Halloween.
He did Halloween. Yeah.
Does anybody have the Rob Zombie Halloween in their top 10? Because if so, I'm turning this podcast off right
now.
No.
Okay.
I don't even think that it wasn't made before.
Would it qualify?
Yeah. You're right. They weren't before 2000, so they wouldn't count anyway. And I love Rob Zombie, so Is it me? Is it my turn for number 8?
You're on number 8, Chris.
My number 8, Scott's previous pick, Phantasm with Tall Man. And so, first off, it was one of the first horror films I ever watched. It has the creepiest ending of any movie I think I've ever seen, where the kid gets pulled through the mirror when he turns around.
Yeah.
I once got very intoxicated with Reggie.
The ice
What
cream
was his
man?
last name? Yeah, the ice cream guy.
Nice.
Reggie Bannister. I got very drunk with him in Burbank one time. He's a musician, and my apologies, Reggie. It's the worst CD I've ever heard in my entire life. He gave me a copy. You guys in your sleep and on 22 Percocets would be better musicians. But he's an iconic character. He's got the really bad, bozo hairdo with the ponytail. And he has one of the best weapons in the history of mankind in the second one, where he puts the shotguns together and he has the 4-barrel shotgun. It's Phantasm. It's Angus Scrim, the tall man.
Yeah.
The little Wookiees or the Ewoks or whatever they are.
Yeah.
And the yellow blood and then the ball. The ball is like, come on. Great movie. Makes no sense, by the way. There's no cohesiveness in the entire script.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it such a great film.
Yeah.
So Don Pasquarelli, who's the director, is one of the greatest horror directors of all time. So.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. Number 7. I'm starting this one, and this actually pretty much ties into my number 8. I think Chris will know what I'm talking about. And we talked about this movie, Near Dark. Love.
Oh.
Okay.
Yep. Bill Paxton. Oh my gosh. I mean, Adrian Pasdar. I mean, it's just everything is so good about that. It's just the first movie that you see done vampire wise that like, oh, they're in like a rolling fucking RV killing people. This is fucking cool as fuck. And Bill Paxton. It's like I hate him.
Don't sleep on Lance Henriksen, who's one of the great character actors of all time and a great dude.
Well, basically, all the people from Alien are in that movie.
Yes.
Yeah, except for Pasdar. I don't think he was in it. So yeah, and that was amazing. It's like, oh my gosh, it's all the same people in like one of my favorite sci-fi horror movies of all time. But yeah, I mean, the scene where Adrian runs him down.
That's a great call.
Yeah,
that's just an awesome pick.
Well, Adrian, runs him over. And you're thinking, oh, Bill Paxton's done. He comes up and he fucking starts ripping shit out of the engine. I'm like, that's amazing. Anyways, number 7, Near Dark.
Hot take. I almost slept on Adrian Pasdar's boat last weekend. So just going to put it out there. Adrian, thanks for the offer. I mean, not like together. He was in New York. But anyway.
I was going to say purposely.
I was at the Brig in Venice and I needed a place to crash.
After 22 Percocets.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I didn't have any Percocets, but after 22 somethings at the Brig. Yeah.
So. Nice.
All right.
Yeah. Number
Scotty
7.
Scott?
Yeah, number 7. Amityville Horror.
Nice.
Again, went back and revisited this one recently, but again, supernatural thriller, as you guys know, but really none of the CGI, none of the effects of later films. It just had that, and I'll repeat this word throughout this, just that eeriness, right? Of, hey, wait, could this happen? I don't know, but it definitely left you with that feeling.
I think a lot of the films from the 70s, which is a great point you touch on, give you that foreboding feel of doom and like you said, eeriness that leaves you after the movie. You don't walk out or turn it off and you're like, oh, okay, whatever. It's like it lingers with you afterwards.
Yeah.
That's the sign of a great horror film.
Absolutely.
And the Amityville Horror is absolutely that, for sure.
Absolutely.
Is it me now?
It is.
What are we on, number 7?
Number 7. Yeah.
My number 7 is the John Carpenter classic, The Fog, which I just watched this week.
All right. Yeah.
With all of the John Carpenter cast that he has and everything. Adrian Barbeau, my favorite Tom Atkins, Charles Cyphers, everyone. And if you guys remember John Houseman, you remember him from They Earned It. He comes in the beginning and tells the ghost story. The witching hour at midnight, and that's how the movie starts. And you're just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is going to be creepy as fuck. And, I mean, what's scarier than a marauding band of nautical seamen?
Whoa.
So,
yeah. Yeah. You got to watch out for seamen. Yeah.
That's the Fog.
Yeah.
Maniacal, ghostly semen.
I saw it years ago, and I do not remember. I just remember wanting to watch it because Adrienne Barbeau was in it.
Oh, dude.
Dude,
I mean, she's not as good as she is in Escape from New York,
right?
but she's still Adrienne Barbeau. So,
Exactly.
And an appearance by Jamie Lee Curtis, who shows up in the greatest horror, franchise of all time, Halloween. So, which we'll bring up later, or I will bring up later.
All right, so I'm going to start with my number 6. Wow, we're already to 6. This was brought up earlier as an honorable mention for Chris, but it really affected me. The occult, all the weird stuff. Hellraiser. When I saw Pinhead's character for the first time, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the scariest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life, with the pins out of the face. And it's like, I couldn't even believe they did it. I mean, Clive Barker is just amazing.
Yeah.
The puzzle box that opens up the spiritual blood on it, and it puts them on that whole journey. And yeah, that one fucking freaked me out.
I think the box is the best part of the whole film, although again, another movie where a guy makes an entire career out of one, 4 minutes in a film, right? Like, it's been done time to time. Doug Bradley turns Pinhead into one of the most iconic horror film characters of all time. It's just a great movie.
Yeah, when you see the trailer, it's like, I think there's a quote on there from Stephen King saying Clive Barker's the new, I can't remember exactly, like he's like the new horror, icon, so it would, so anyways.
And Doug Bradley gets the greatest one-liner of all time. Like I said, when he says, "We'll tear your soul apart," it's the greatest.
Yeah.
I had to go back and rewatch that for a show we did, and I rewound it 4 times to watch him do it again. It's so awesome.
Yep. Awesome. Yep. All right, Scott.
Yeah. No, that one I had to consider, would it make it in or not, and it didn't. But for all the things you talk about, and I forget the name of the kind of the group of all the creepy guys shows up in that one scene when they want to take the girl. Thank you. That right there. But again, he dominates that scene, and that's something that you remember constantly. And yeah, you don't want to run in the guy in a dark alley or anywhere. Number 6. A nerdish boy buys a strange car with an evil mind of its own. Body by Plymouth, soul by Satan. What am I talking about? Christine. Again, John Carpenter and Stephen King. So come on. Again, 1983. I remember there was a movie theater down the street in Garden Grove. It was at the bowling alley, right next door to the bowling alley.
Yes,
right?
It's still open.
Yeah.
I just went by there the other day.
So you could go in there for probably $2. And we'd sit there and we probably watched that on opening day probably 5 times. Christine, and that was back when double feature was the norm. But I'm sure there was something else. But yeah, Christine. It's that. It just sticks with you, right? Again, it's this thing where it's this object, right, that has all this evil. But really, what kind of, in rewatching it again, I revisited it this week, is that lead character. He becomes, to me, as evil as the car, because now he's kind of projecting any of the evil that comes from the car. He becomes that. He kind of manifests all that energy and that spirit, and then everybody around it ends up dying, right? All his friends and are impacted in a certain way. The older guys, like Roger Dean Stanton, has a great role in that. So
Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah. Roger was good as well.
Also an alien, by the way, and great character, great actor. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think because
I don't remember the lead actor's name, but he went on to play Jason in Back to School, which is one of the greatest movies of all time with Rodney Dangerfield. So yeah,
we'll have to talk about those films. Yeah,
but for me too, I think that's why I can't. That movie, even though it should have made my top 10, it didn't. But that movie, I think, for a guy my age, that's why I don't trust electric cars. The car has so much power, and I saw what happened in that movie.
Was that like
that's so great?
Was that a look into the future of what could happen when cars control themselves?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I'm not allowed to let that happen.
I have a Tesla, so my apologies.
All right, so I think it's up.
Are we on to me?
Yeah.
My number 6. And I will say this, having made a zombie film, the greatest zombie movie of all time, and I won't say the second greatest zombie film of all time because I'd be lying. The ultimate classic, George Romero's Dawn of the Dead.
Yep.
The greatest zombie film that's ever been made. Don't confuse it with the Zack Snyder 2004 bullshit sprinting zombie remake, which was not terrible. I got in a lot of trouble with a film festival over this film a couple of years ago when I told a girl from Fangoria to F off because of her opinion about this movie and the Zack Snyder one.
Nice.
But this is without a doubt the greatest zombie movie that's ever been made. Night of the Living Dead was obviously a classic. You can't argue that. It's probably on everyone's pantheon of great horror films. But the follow-up of this one was the first one in color, so the blood was much more visceral. I mean, it was just the quintessential horror film of the 70s. And the thing that, in my opinion, kicked off what we now see 30, 40 years later as still zombie movies are they don't stop coming, and they're never going to stop coming. People are scared of the undead, and this was the thing that made it happen. So
we're up to number 5 now, right?
Wow, top 5. And I like everybody's feedback. I like that they're not judging. I mean, you can judge if you want, but like I said, it's more about how these creepy movies make you feel. I mean, some of these I won't watch again either, to be honest.
You too scared? Is that what it is?
Or I think some of it too, especially the slasher movies for me, I kind of, if we would have been past 2000, like Saw would have been in my top 5, just because that was like one of the last real horror movies I watched. And it was, as a dad, and I started thinking, like, I have to make decisions about killing people or who lives. And
Bill, you wear a blonde wig on stage. How can you be scared of anything? I'm trying to figure that out.
True. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So some of these I will not watch again. So, but some of my own. So there you go. I got all that stuff. But yeah, I'll start by number 5, 1976 Carrie.
Yeah.
Oh,
talk about creep factor, a cult. Just
great movie. Horrible parents. We're all parents, right? Like, that's the movie that shows you what happens when you're a shitty parent.
And then just the scene, especially because in 1976, let me think, I was 9 years old, right? Oh my gosh. And so I think I probably saw it when I was 9 or 10. So the high school gym where all of a sudden the door's shut and locks them in and she's going to get her freaking revenge on everybody. I was like, as a kid, I'm always wondering if, is someone going to do that to me? So, but yeah, still one of the, top 5, still with me to this day. And Sissy's
great movie.
Amazing actress and doesn't get enough credit probably for that type of acting, early in her career.
Yeah.
So.
No, for sure. Number 5, Jaws.
Oh.
So thinking back, you're talking about parenting. I was 5. What were my parents thinking taking me to this theater? This was the movie theater. You guys know where now it's a bank, but in Rossmore, it's behind the Baskin Robbins near the back of the parking lot. It was a cinema. It's one that was near whatever the other cross street is. This is a perfect explanation,
Right.
But I just remember where it was just as a little kid, just, hold my parents' hands, walking in to see Jaws. I wouldn't take a bath for weeks because I was convinced that it was going to come up through the drain. But just as far as, again, the eeriness and, at the time living in Southern California, you're right now, you're right down near the beach. You don't know, right? Anything can happen. And it's like, sure, a shark like that doing all those things, completely unbelievable. But shark attacks happen, right? They have Shark Week, all those things. It just left you with this, what in the hell? But the characters and the quotes and just the overall story,
Well, so first off, the mayor in Jaws is one of my favorite characters in the history of cinema. When he says, the beaches are open and everybody's having a wonderful time, right?
Yeah.
While they're getting disemboweled by this fucking giant shark. So I struggled with this one. I left it off of my top 10 because I have a hard time considering Jaws a horror movie, although
Yes.
by default it's very Hitchcockian.
Yeah.
And if you know the backstory, it's because the shark didn't work properly that they had to make it the way that it was. And so supposedly the story behind it is that Spielberg is as famous a director as he is because the shark did not work properly. They wanted to show it much more than they did.
Yeah.
And in the end, you barely ever see it, and that's what makes it so unbelievably creepy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because, and to this day, I cannot be in a swimming pool by myself because I'm convinced in the deep end there's a great white that's going to come out and eat me whole.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think many kids into their adult lives have that same fear. So
yes.
talk about impactful. Yeah.
Kids these days have no idea what it's like to go in the water without fearing being consumed by a giant shark.
Yeah.
Yep.
So. Well, is this number 5 that we're on?
Yep.
My
Number
number
five.
5 is going to resonate with all of us, and I had a hard time even having it this low. But this movie was the impetus for my favorite album of all time, Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden, in which Steve Harris fell asleep after watching this movie and woke up from a dream and wrote almost the entirety of Number of the Beast. This movie is 1976, The Omen, which is, quite frankly, if you're into the occult and things that creep you out, one of the greatest movies of all time. Not just a great horror movie, a great movie. And one of the great parts about this movie is it starts off almost like a romance, like a rom-com.
Right. Yeah.
You have this couple that's having their own child after the very beginning where they get this kid and it's like, oh, hey, we switched out these babies, because a jackal had a kid and your kid died.
Yep.
You've got a statesman who's married to a much younger lady and they show him on a boat and having picnics and doing all this great shit. And all of a sudden the nanny hangs herself from the top of the house, and then all hell breaks loose after that. So 1976, The Omen, one of the greatest horror Listen, to put together a top 10 of horror movies is impossible.
Yeah.
It is.
Because when you get down to 10, they're all classics. You can't even get down to 10. This movie could easily be number 1 as the creepiest movie of all time. But The Omen.
No. Yeah. I agree. And starting off my number 4, Chris, it's The Omen, 1976.
There you go. Yeah.
I still don't want to watch that movie. I looked at some refresher stuff. I'm like, I don't want to watch this fucking movie because the Antichrist and at the end of the movie, after the parents end up dying, and I'm sure I'm not spoiling it for everyone's seen it, but he ends up with the fucking president and the first ladies adopt him. It's like, oh my god,
this
biblical.
And by the way, I think one of the creepiest parts is this could actually happen.
Yes.
Like the rest of the movie is like Alien, okay, it's not going to happen to us.
Yeah.
This could be a thing potentially.
Yeah, exactly. And it's and the fact that, like you said, it does start off like it's a romance thing, and then it's just like, oh, don't tell her that the baby died because we just had this.
The agency is coming.
Yes, exactly. Oh, what a great movie. So, Scott, if you've never seen it.
So, PSA, if a nanny shows up at your house from the agency and wants 30 minutes alone with the child, don't let it happen.
Yeah. So I was considering this movie, and I did go back, and I was thinking about, do I want to watch this? Because it's the same thing. I watched the trailer, and it's like, oh god, this is just eerie and true. Like I love how you broke that down, Chris. It could be perceived as a rom-com, and it just goes into like this meat grinder, and then where it ends up at the end. So yeah, as far as just the story and everything is, I considered it. I went back and I watched. I kind of flipped around a little bit, but wanting to experience again is just like, I don't know if I want that feeling inside me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome.
My wife says that on a regular basis.
Understood.
Scott,
yeah. Thank you for picking that up. Nice.
All right. So you got to do your number 4 then, Scott.
All right. Number 4. You put in John Carpenter. Thank you. And Kurt Russell. What do you end up with? The Thing. So again, I went back and watched this. Again, the creepiness. Great story too, though. It like it's some iconic scenes for sure. And you really talk about, Chris, earlier, what you're saying with Alien, and you can't see it. And even with the idea of Jaws, you knew it was a shark right at that. And once you got into the movie, but you couldn't see it. And a lot of these films, it's the unknown. You're anticipating what's going on, but in The Thing, it's what it was. It's The Thing. You really don't know what will happen next. And so that one kind of stuck with me. And again, those two guys together, I think are great.
Well, we'll touch on The Thing a little bit later. So
Understood.
I'll leave that out of.
And again, you've probably heard that
portion of the conversation.
You've heard that late at night as well.
Yeah. It's.
We'll touch on the.
I have a shirt of The Thing that I wear on the weekends, so it'll be
So you're
Have you seen The Thing, Bill? Ever?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. So number four.
Right.
Number four.
Am I on to number 4?
Yeah.
This is me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my God. My number 4 is Nightmare on Elm Street. So,
Okay.
Which I know is kind of milquetoast. Everybody has The Thing, but one of the things I remember about Nightmare on Elm Street, I was a senior in high school, I think, senior or junior, and I remember seeing these horribly cheesy ads late at night for this movie that was coming out, and particularly the scene with the phone where the tongue comes out when she's talking on the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, la, 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 la.
Yeah.
And I'll give a shout out because one of my favorite bands of all time is Dokken. They did the Dream Warriors soundtrack, so I could not have an Elm Street movie in here. But I think from the legacy of slasher movies, this movie, I think more than any, actually made Michael Myers, made Jason Voorhees. Freddy was the first one that was like, oh my God, this guy's not around in real time. What the fuck is going to happen when you fall asleep? You know? And like, to me, that made it the creepiest of all of them, because everything else was visceral. You're awake. You can run. You can do whatever. This fucker shows up in your dreams. And we've all had dreams where you're trying to punch the guy and it's like, and you never connect, like, how do you combat that?
Yeah.
To me, that was extremely unnerving. So
yeah, 100%. 100%.
Even though Robert Englund stole half my time in an autograph signing, I'll let him off the hook. So.
Damn him. Yeah.
All right. Well, top 3. Yeah. Wow.
This is it. Top 3.
Are we on to 3? Was that number 4?
Yeah.
Was that 5?
4. Yep.
I'm keeping horrible track. Thank you, Scott, for planning this on a Saturday morning, by the way. Cheers.
Yeah. Yep. Cheers. Yeah. So this movie was touched on earlier, and Amityville Horror. I mean, holy cow! I just the look of the house. I mean, everything. The windows in the house. I never wanted to. I had a problem like going into my friends' houses after this. Seeing this movie, it's like you got a 2-story house. I got to make sure looking up top and making sure it's not a fucking demon possession.
And by the way, if you go to the East Coast, there are any number of houses that have that exact same window structure everywhere.
Scary as hell. But everything that happens in that, and So there's a theme with my top 3. It's just the spiritual stuff. Being.
And you guys know from Southern California, we have that 1 month where there's nothing but flies inside of your house too. Which is like the worst thing of all time. Yeah, that evokes memories of Amityville Horror.
Absolutely, yeah.
Think about that. I don't take baths anymore. It's like there's like all sorts of stuff with Amityville. But anyways,
you are taking showers though, right?
Occasionally, yes.
Yeah.
So, all right, Scott's up.
Yeah, number 3. Another appearance of Tobe Hooper. This time paired with Steven Spielberg. Poltergeist.
Nice.
And I did not know that was Tobe Hooper, until recently. So, and I guess there was some story, right? And who knows that Steven Spielberg really was the one that did everything, and who knows? Don't really care, But again, that movie, when it came out, 82, right? Again, just a kid. We'd go to the cinema. We'd ride our bikes, and we'd sit. No one checked theaters, so they didn't care. You just sit there and watch it over and over again, a couple times. but again, just the eeriness and the characters and the old, was it the old man, and it,
Oh,
The
everything.
old man. That's the
Yeah.
best part.
yeah, it's like, whoa. And again, just a neighborhood, right? It's like a new neighborhood. And when we've, Bill, you talk about, not wanting to go into, friends' houses, when we've moved around or we built something and you go, wait a second, looking out the window, did we, being in the South, did we build on an old Civil War cemetery that
ground?
just got knocked away, a burial ground?
Yes.
Indians, right? Any of that, where, and some of it's probably true. I mean, there was something, when we lived just years ago, there was a whole area of the neighborhood that was blocked off because it was still a burial ground that they were trying to relocate it, which is like, fuck that. It's like, that was a couple blocks away from where we were, but just that eeriness, you don't want it, in the swimming pool scene.
That's the scariest part of those movies, right? Is like,
this could all happen. Yeah.
What don't you know that's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like you talked about it. You built a house. Like, what don't you know about the land that you're building this house on?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when that gets into your head, it never gets out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so great about that movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. So number 3, Poltergeist.
All right, Chris, number 3.
My number 3, I'm not sure anybody's ever going to have seen. I'll be shocked if you guys have seen this movie. But I consider it's the greatest. We talked about Alien. We talked about Aliens. This is the best horror sci-fi movie of all time.
Chud.
And if you haven't seen it, you need to see it. Lawrence Fishburne plays the lead character. It's the movie Event Horizon. Have either of you seen it?
I saw it a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And that pops up continuously on like top 10 list. And I was kind of taken aback. I go, well, I need to watch that again. So I'll let you finish. Sorry. But that stood out as, I need to go back and visit that.
I'll tell you, this movie has a bunch of, I'll just, for lack of a better term, say shit surrounding it.
Yeah.
The master has been lost. There's 6 minutes of footage that nobody can find. It originally got an X rating before they had NC-17 because of this footage that they had to clip out of it.
Wow.
It is one of the most unnerving films you'll ever see in your life. And the story behind the film is that it's set in space. There's a ship that is going to rescue another ship called the Event Horizon that disappeared for 7 years and nobody knew where it went to. And the idea behind it is that it went to hell and came back. You never really hear that. It's a term.
Yeah.
But the footage that you see inside of this movie and the rest of the movie is so completely unnerving that if it wasn't set in a spaceship, you probably wouldn't be able to watch it.
Yeah.
So it's one of the better films of the 90s when it comes to horror, but very few people know about it because it was kind of lost in the shuffle of Aliens and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a very unsettling film.
So I need to go back and revisit it. Yeah, no, I will. And I guess the only part, sorry, Bill, I think the only part, that would remove some of the uneasiness is that, it's in space. Like, oh, well, that's never going to happen anywhere, right? So
right. Well, you couldn't replicate it down here, but it's, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
All right. Number 2 for me, Shining. I mean, enough said. Everyone loves that movie. Possession, creepiness, just stylistically, there was just nothing like it in 1980. It was groundbreaking to me.
Yeah.
It still scares the shit out of me to this day. Jack Nicholson's character, obviously, everyone. I'm kind of speechless when it comes to this, but that's definitely, my number 2. So maybe Chris.
Supposedly a haunted film set as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't hear that.
There's an entire documentary dedicated to the haunting of the film set. If you get a chance to watch it, so yes, where they shot. So and an externally creepy movie. Like, this is what happens when you are isolated. You know what I mean? Like, here's a great job. Well, it's a lot like The Thing, which we talked about before. Yeah. Here's what happens when you're isolated out in this space, and then all hell breaks loose and you're left to your own devices,
Yeah.
which was a bad thing for me, by the way.
Understood. Yeah. This was a film that I considered, but I'd only seen it probably once, maybe twice, but it's been years. So I didn't want to just to include it, but all the things you say, Bill, I completely agree with. Just when I went back and watched kind of an abbreviated version on YouTube, it's just, again, that eeriness, here's that word again, with one, Jack Nicholson's phenomenal, but just in that character where there's this isolation, right? So you're in this, he's going for like a new job, right? So is everything is he just hallucinating on everything other than his family, right? Because of what's going on. Again, it just kind of draws you in. So just revisiting it a little bit, it's like I felt compelled not to include it just for that sake. I knew it would be on the list.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things when you watch it, it's like Stanley Kubrick, and I haven't dug deep on Clockwork Orange and the different films. I haven't spent a lot of time in that. And again, overall as a topic, this is probably the least of different movie genres that I'm like really familiar with. I've seen the main ones, but I didn't spend a lot of time, and a lot of it was because you didn't want to leave with that just feeling after it was done, so but yeah, as far as a film and everything tied to it, yeah, that's just
and the creepy kids and rad
ram, yeah,
you don't even know what that means, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's murder backward.
Yeah. Yeah,
don't forget Scatman Carruthers, who voiced Hong Kong Phooey too on the cartoon.
It's Hong Kong.
You had me a Hong Kong Phooey. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So so I guess it's Scott's number 2. Sorry.
Number 2. Yeah, number 2, Halloween, the original. Again, some say this is the best of all time. That's debatable, and that's fine. To me, it's number 2. The story, the music, the characters, I think it's great. And one of the quotes, and this was at the very end of the original, and I love the trailers. Like movie trailers, like in the 70s, are probably in the best. I don't know if this is documented or can be proven, but opinion, the best set of movie trailers were in the 70s because they just had kind of that deadpan voice, and it's like, what I saw behind his eyes were pure and simple evil, and I forget that character who was the detective.
Donald Pleasance.
Thank you. Yeah,
it was Dr. Loomis.
Thanks. See, Chris, thank you for having those facts and utter babble coming from this side of the mic. But yeah, all that together,
the babble's all over here.
Yeah. But that's great. That's probably my number 1 favorite character, though another one might rival it. But just as far as, that's my go-to more times than not for dressing up at work on Halloween, or just standing like on the porch when little kids want to come up with candy, because you can just, it just scares the shit out of people.
No, and the kill scenes are amazing.
Yeah.
Like I said, for me, my criteria, this would be number 1 if we did like slasher movie. Mm-hmm. This would be number 1. That's why it's my arm, and that's why I set it up at the beginning. Yeah. But I mean, gosh, the kill scenes, and like you said, Donald Pleasance. I mean, it was just amazing.
Jamie Lee Curtis, all that. Yeah, just
amazing. All right.
Is it my number 2?
Yeah.
No.
Well, amazingly, this would have been my number 1 until we included sci-fi. But my number 2 is also Halloween, 1970.
All right.
I'm actually going to Pasadena this evening for the Halloween festival and I'll be at the Halloween Museum. I got a kiss on the cheek last year from what's her name, the blonde from the movie. I can't think of it now.
The one that gets the topless one that gets killed.
Yeah. Yes. She's like 70 now and still looks great. I can't think of it. But this movie, so to me, the quintessential horror film of all time, like horror slasher. They watched it in the screener without music, and they hated it, and then they put the score to it, and it was the creepiest movie ever. If you go to Pasadena, which they tried to make look like Illinois, where I'm originally from, and they did a terrible job. You can go to the hardware store, you can go to the house, you can go to the school. You can still see all of the sights from this movie.
Wow.
This movie set off a string of films This movie was made for $300,000.
Same.
Jamie Lee Curtis got paid $2,000 for this film. It's made somewhere north of like $780 million. So this is the quintessential horror film of all time.
Yeah.
It jump started all of the holiday horror movies, right? There's going to be a Thanksgiving coming out this year.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why.
Yep.
Yeah.
PJ
absolutely.
Souls is her name, by the way. PJ
Okay.
Souls, who said totally all the time in the film. This is just again, if we didn't include sci-fi movies, to me, this is the greatest horror film of all time.
Okay.
I have one, up
Just
the
above.
John Carpenter ladder.
Got it.
Yeah, this might shock people as my number one, and it was mentioned earlier, which I thought was great. So I figured a lot of us would be mentioned earlier, but for me, the scariest, creepiest movie is still Poltergeist. It has everything that creeps me out, and the guy's pulling his fucking meat face off and in the mirror. I mean, and dropping into the sink. I'm like, who thinks of this stuff? And the fucking steak meat crawling across the counter, maggots. Oh my God. It's just like, I can't watch it. I have not watched it in years. And they're here, and the creepy, the lady, the little person, I guess you call her. Oh my gosh. And the old man. I mean, it was, for me, I still can't watch it. I can't. And obviously we know about all the creepy stuff that happened afterwards with the characters that have died. And
yes,
this to me is just like, wow, this movie, it has a whole history surrounding it. And anyways, it will always will. So that's my number one, guys.
Nice.
Great number one.
Absolutely.
Got it, Scott.
All right. Number one, a masterpiece in fantasy terror, released in 1984, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh.
That's my number one. Johnny
Depp a star.
Yeah, it was. Johnny Depp was in there. It's again, everything about it. I haven't rewatched that entire film, and again, I know they did like most of these films, they've done a reboot. There was another, and I think it was who did it? I forget who redid it. It was a guy Michael Mann, I think, is the one who did the reboot.
Yep.
But
Slater from Bad News Bears, Kelly Slater.
Yeah, right. And they kind of reshaped how you saw Freddy Krueger. So it was almost making you feel sorry for him, right? Maybe at the very beginning, but yeah, definitely the original. Kind of like what you were saying, Chris, with what Halloween did. Same thing with Freddy Krueger. That those, while separated by 6 years, definitely that again, the eeriness and what was truly can be, as soon as you shut your eyes, a couple versions later when Dawkins came into it, Dream Warrior, I don't want to dream no more, right? You wanted to not even have a thought when you shut your eyes. And I was 14 when this came out. But still, like you would, want to get up and go, hey, mom and dad, can I go sleep in your bed? Just, it left you that way. And again, that's what, in any of these films, you don't want to feel like so shitty that that's like, oh my God, what's going on? But you want to feel something, and that's what most of these films, if not all of them, with me, you remember distinct parts of the film, you remember why you felt a certain way, and you kind of look forward to it. But you said it, Bill, in some cases I don't want to watch these again. but you like, I went back and look.
I think the thing, to your point, Scott, is like, we've all had those times when we're trying in vain to stay awake, right?
Yeah.
No matter what. And it just isn't happening. The more you try to do it, it's like the more you try to go to sleep, the less chance you have of going to sleep.
Yeah.
The more you try to stay awake, the less chance you have. And you know that if you go to sleep, like, something bad is going to happen.
Yeah. And there's been, and probably, if you guys have kind of had these similar experiences, I don't think frequently, because you probably forget more dreams than you have, right? Again, I don't know the actual facts on that.
You do, absolutely.
But
well, here's the facts. Unless you don't wake up during them,
yeah,
or it's not the last one of the night, you don't remember.
It's gone. Yeah.
So that's the fact.
so there are times just, fueled by this film or not, but I remember where, again, it could be that your arm falls asleep and then it falls asleep and then you hit yourself and in a dream there's some eerie fucker that's going to like grab you, and it feels that way. It's like you can like truly like have that sense in the dream where you scream and nobody hears you, where you fall, and you never should die. You're never supposed to die in a dream, right? Because you die in real life. All that's brought from a film. But as crazy as this can be from a fantasy perspective, it's still the aspect that once you go to sleep, anything can happen. And that's what makes it like an entire other area.
Amen.
Yeah. Number one.
Well, my number one, thanks to the inclusion of science fiction, and this has been brought up, I think, a couple times, is John Carpenter's The Thing. So I would not have put it on a horror category, but it's in my top 5 favorite films of all time, period.
Yeah.
And you take an alien combined with seclusion and isolation, and the creepiest thing about this is you don't know who is who, and they try to isolate that during the movie. They do a great job of it, but you have no idea who the alien is, and it's assimilating itself into the populace, and then the threat of, holy shit, if this gets out, it's the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
So you're in the most isolated part of the planet, but if for whatever reason that dog winds up running to Halifax, Nova Scotia, to bring it back to My Bloody Valentine, and then it gets out, the planet is dead. And there's that foreboding sense of doom involved. And I think a lot of these films have that same thing as like, oh my God, if this thing gets out, we're all fucked. It's not just this isolated group of kids in a high school, So John Carpenter, in my estimation, the greatest filmmaker that's ever lived. He'll never win an Oscar, but he's been able to skip the genres of thriller, suspense, horror, action, comedy. He does everything. He hits the mark with this one for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. I had that at number 4, and I was trying to read your facial expressions, Chris, because I wasn't 100% sure you would have it, but just knowing, your affinity to John Carpenter, it had to be. So
again, if there wasn't sci-fi included, I would not have put it in there. But as my top 5 favorite movie of all time, it had to be number 1 then once we got into that. So otherwise Halloween would have been it, which is also Carpenter. So just guys, what a great list. I mean, dude, it's your birthday, to include Bad Dreams.
Yeah.
Bill.
Right?
Yes. So that was our list of top horror films between 75 and 2000. Again, number 1, we had Nightmare on Elm Street. They're talking works. We had The Thing, and Bill, you had
Poltergeist.
Yeah. So all those appeared at different spots within our top 10. Well, hey, this was awesome. Just to say that one more time. And again, happy Halloween. Happy birthday, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you.
Scott, thanks for pimping the merch, by the way. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Manson Brothers, go see this one.
Yeah. It's available on streaming, the Blu-ray. So those that still have
on the
DVD
Blu-ray?
players, it's on Blu-ray.
It's on Amazon for free right now. So you
don't
have to put a half a cent in my pocket. You can watch it for nothing.
I bought it the day it came out, and I watched it.
I got it too. We own it. We're supporting each other, man.
Yeah.
It's just like I own it. I enjoyed it. Wifey enjoyed it. She doesn't like the horror movie stuff, but
it's all about.
Yeah, she loved it. We enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Until next time.
Till next time.
See ya.